In this screencast, I will walk you through the steps of filling out a field trip request form. This is the same information that was previously housed in my learning plan and will serve as the temporary form until it can be added to the new professional learning platform permanently. The first thing you'll want to do is click on the field trip request link that was sent to you via email. When you click on the link, this is the form that will come up on your screen. You'll see the note at the top that says this request must be submitted to the principal at least 15 days prior to the departure date. This allows time for all the involved approvers to review your information and approve your field trip. The first thing we want to do is select the type of field trip we are requesting. So for the purpose of this, we're going to select an in-town field trip. In the next section, you'll see the important notice with the forms that are contained if you are taking an out-of-town field trip. You have the Plan of Supervision form or the International Field Trip roster. Both of these are forms that are used for out-of-town field trips only. Once you download the forms, if you get a blank screen, you can simply come up here to your back button and click that to return to this page. The next thing we want to fill out is our demographic information. So we'll complete the email of the person completing the form. And the name of the person completing the form. Then we want to select our location from the drop-down menu. So we'll come down here and select our school. So let's say, we'll pretend like we're in attendance and discipline. Then we have the date submitted. You can type in the date in the format that's been provided here, or you can simply click on the calendar to select the date. So this will be today's date. Then we type in the principal or supervisor's email. And today's date. As we scroll down, we come to the field trip overview section. So the first thing we'll want to type in is our chaperone's name. And the chaperone's cell phone. Then our departure date and time. Again, you can type the numbers in manually using the format that's listed here, or you can simply click on the calendar. So our field trip will happen on October 10th, but this is not the time that we want to leave. So you can go back into the calendar and come down to the bottom to change the time. So let's say we will leave at 12:30. We won't worry about the seconds. Then our return date and time, you do the same thing. October 10th. Let's say we are going to come back at 1 o'clock. We'll say 1:30 in the afternoon. Then our return location, we'll say that we're returning to the Board of Education. Now we want to enter our event information. So I'll type in the event name and the event address. Then the grade level of the students that are attending for this trip, we'll select 3rd grade. And the number of students attending. Then we have the number of teachers and staff that are attending the field trip. And we'll type in the names of the teachers and staff. You want to make sure that for whatever number of teachers and staff you've said are attending in this box, you type in that many names in the one below. Then it asks, will a nurse be needed? So we will say we don't need a nurse for this trip. We will not need a substitute teacher. If you are requesting a substitute, you would need to fill out the approved absence request form and follow the process as you normally would at your school and select your zone assignment. In this next section, the form gives us travel information, which includes insurance, liability information for people that are driving, and any other documentation that you would need for the trip. The next question asks how we plan to travel. So you'll see several selections on here. For our trip, we're going to choose an SES bus. But if you did choose a board-approved carrier, you'll want to make sure that they are on the board-approved list, as you'll see below. So it says here, if bus is selected, the name of the carrier. These are the approved buses on the Shelby County Schools list, so you want to make sure that your bus is on this list. For us, Durham will be providing the transportation. The carrier is on the approved list. Now we'll want to fill in our departure and return information. Again, you can type directly into the box using the format here. I find it easier just to click on the calendar. So our departure date and time, this will be the same thing that we entered at the top. And I think we said that we'll leave at 11:30. a.m. Let me check that. Okay, no, we said we'll leave at 12:30 to 1:30, so let me change that. So I can go back in here and just change that number. That would be p.m. Our departure location, we'll say it's the Board of Education. The return date and time, October 10th, and I think we said 1:30 for our return, and that would be p.m. So then the return location, we'll say the Board of Education. This is not an overnight trip. If you are taking an overnight trip, you want to list the name, address, and phone number of the hotel where you'll be staying. Then in the transportation arrangement section, we want to list the number of buses that we'll be taking and whether or not you have wheelchair access required for this trip. You can also list any other special accommodations that will be needed. In the curriculum alignment section, we want to list the curriculum standards that our trip aligns to. Any instructional or extracurricular preparation needed for the trip, and then an explanation of assessment or follow-up information that will happen once the students return from the trip. As we move to the bottom, you'll want to acknowledge that you've read these statements above that are in compliance with the Shelby County Schools Policy 6004 and that your field trip is aligned with the standards listed here. So we will click this box. If you have any other additional considerations to add, you can do those in this box here. Now you'll select the type of funding that is needed for your trip. In this box, you'll select it if federal programs is paying for your trip. This one is for pre-K funds. This one is for ELOP funds or CTE funds. If your school is paying for the trip, this is automatically routing to the principal, so that is set on the default, so the school will automatically pay for the trip. When the principal receives this request, he or she will know that that's where it's being routed. Then in your file attachment section, you have, you can attach federal programs, information, pre-K, the student roster, if you had any out-of-town forms that you filled out at the top, those can be uploaded here. So you would choose the file and select the ones you want to attach. Once you've completed the form, you click Submit. Once you have submitted, you will receive a confirmation email with the field trip ID that is unique for this specific trip.